The Galactic Council's recruitment officer barely glanced up from his holographic display when Marcus Chen shuffled into the assessment chamber. At 17, Marcus was thin, pale, and wore thick-rimmed glasses that had been repaired with synthetic tape more times than he cared to count. His physical scores were abysmal, his reflexes average at best, and his psychological profile showed an alarming tendency toward what the Zathari termed excessive contemplation. Next, the officer droned, his 6 eyes scanning Marcus with the same enthusiasm one might reserve for expired ration packs. The Great War against the Void Swarm had been raging for 3 years. Every species in the galaxy had contributed their finest warriors, their most advanced technology, their brightest tactical minds. The humans, newest members of the Galactic Council, were expected to provide cannon fodder, young aggressive fighters to throw at the enemy's endless hordes. Marcus scored a 2.3 out of 10 on the combat readiness scale. Useless, the officer muttered, stamping a red rejection mark across Marcus's file. Report to civilian logistics. Maybe you can count supply crates. 25 years later, Admiral. Marcus Chen stood on the bridge of the UES Prometheus, watching his tactical display with the same quiet intensity that had once earned him ridicule. The Void Swarm's latest incursion had shattered 3 Council fleets in the Kepler system. 12 species best and brightest had thrown themselves against the enemy and been consumed like moths against a flame. Now, Earth's 7th Fleet, composed entirely of the rejects, the useless, the ones deemed unfit for conventional warfare, held the line. "Admiral," called out Commander Sarah Liu from the sensor station. She'd been rejected for being too cautious. Her methodical approach to threat assessment had saved them countless times. "Swarm signatures approaching. Estimated 60,000 hostiles. Standard formation." Marcus nodded, his fingers steepled before him. Around the bridge, his crew moved with practiced efficiency. Lieutenant Torres, too slow for regular combat roles, manned communications with the patience of a saint. Chief Engineer Okafor, deemed overthinking, ran the most efficiently modified engines in the fleet. Navigator Patel, rejected for excessive calculation time, plotted courses that seemed to bend the laws of physics themselves. "Pattern analysis?" Marcus asked. "Same as Kepler, Vega, and Proxima," Liu replied. "Mass frontal assault, overwhelming force projection. They're not adapting." That was the thing about the Void Swarm that no one seemed to understand. They were perfect biological killing machines, evolved for destruction and consumption. But perfection came with a price. They couldn't change, couldn't adapt, couldn't think beyond their programming. The Council's warrior races attacked the swarm the way they attacked everything, with honor, courage, and direct confrontation. Zathari battle fury, Kralix tactical superiority, Vorthak technological might. All meeting the swarm head-on, strength against strength, all failing. "Deploy the web," Marcus commanded quietly. His fleet didn't attack. Instead, they scattered like leaves before a storm, spreading across the system in a pattern that looked like retreat. The swarm, sensing weakness, accelerated their pursuit. 60,000 bioships, each the size of a cruiser, each capable of tearing apart conventional vessels with organic weaponry that adapted to whatever attacked it. The Earth ships ran. And as they ran, they dropped things, not weapons, not mines. Tiny drones, barely larger than a human fist, each one broadcasting a specific frequency. "First resonance achieved," Torres reported. The drones were simple devices, really. Marcus had designed them himself during those long years in logistics, studying the void swarm's behavior patterns, their communication methods, their hive mind frequencies. While the galaxy's greatest warriors charged headlong into battle, Marcus had been taking notes. Second resonance. Third resonance building. The swarm didn't notice at first. Why would they? The drones were so small, so seemingly insignificant. But as the Earth fleet continued its apparent retreat, more drones deployed, more frequencies activated. The mathematical precision of their placement would have been beautiful to anyone who understood the underlying pattern. Full resonance achieved, Liu announced. Cascade effect beginning. Marcus watched his tactical display with satisfaction. The Void Swarm's biological ships were incredibly sophisticated. Their nervous systems evolved for perfect coordination across vast distances. That coordination was their greatest strength. It was also their greatest weakness. The resonance cascade rippled through the swarm fleet like a virus. Ship after ship began firing on its neighbors as the frequency disruptions scrambled their collective consciousness. The perfect biological. Machines, unable to adapt, unable to break free from their own hardwired responses, tore themselves apart in a matter of minutes. 60,000 ships reduced to drifting biological debris in less than an hour. 0 human casualties. Send a message to Council Command, Marcus said, settling back in his command chair. The Kepler system is secure, proceeding to the next incursion point. As the UES Prometheus and her sister ships prepared to jump to the next battlefield, Marcus allowed himself a small smile. The galaxy's warrior races still didn't understand how the human rejects kept winning. They still looked for grand tactics, superior technology, impossible courage. They never suspected that sometimes the greatest weapon was simply the ability to think differently, to see patterns where others saw chaos, to question what everyone else accepted as truth. The Galactic Council had wanted warriors. Instead, they'd gotten something far more dangerous. Humans who had learned that being useless simply meant you were useful in ways no one else had imagined. And in a galaxy at war, that made all the difference.